Have you ever wondered why something as innocent as a piece of fruit could quietly push your body toward a medical emergency without pain, without warning, and without you realizing it until it's almost too late? I'm Dr. Mark Ellis, and what I'm about to share may challenge everything you've been told about healthy eating. Because for millions of older adults, especially those over 60, the danger isn't fast food or sugar anymore. It's the foods you trust the most. Foods you eat every day believing they protect your heart, your energy, even your longevity. While in reality, they may be forcing your kidneys to fight a losing battle in silence. Here's the urgent truth most people never hear in a doctor's office. When kidney function begins to decline with age, your body loses its ability to clear excess potassium efficiently. That buildup doesn't scream with pain. It whispers through subtle fatigue, restless sleep, muscle weakness, a fluttering heartbeat at night. And if that whisper goes unnoticed, it can escalate into dangerous heart rhythm disturbances or sudden hospital visits seemingly out of nowhere. What makes this especially dangerous is that many of the foods driving potassium overload come straight from nature. Bananas, avocados, citrus juices, dried fruits, nutritious for younger bodies, but potentially overwhelming for aging kidneys. This is where the misunderstanding becomes deadly. Natural does not always mean safe, and healthy does not mean harmless for everybody. But here's the part that gives you control back. You don't need to fear fruit. You don't need extreme restrictions. What you need is precision, knowing which fruits strain, weaken kidneys when they do the most damage, and how small adjustments in timing and portions can dramatically reduce potassium stress while still allowing you to eat with confidence. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the fruits that quietly raise potassium levels, explain exactly how they interfere with kidney filtration, and most importantly, show you how to eat intelligently so your kidneys can rest instead of struggle. And near the end, I'll reveal one extremely common fruit that almost every household keeps, yet is misunderstood more than any other, especially among older adults. Stay with me because the next few minutes could be the difference between protecting your kidneys or unknowingly pushing them closer to failure. For many people, bananas feel like the safest choice imaginable. Soft, easy to digest, naturally sweet, and often recommended as a heart-friendly snack, especially for older adults who want something simple between meals. I've seen this countless times in clinic patients who proudly tell me, "Doctor, I eat a banana every day. I'm trying to be healthy." And that intention is good, but the kidney doesn't respond to intention. It responds to load. One of my patients, a retired teacher in her late 60s, ate 2 bananas every morning with oatmeal. She wasn't sick, she wasn't in pain, but her blood work showed rising potassium levels that didn't make sense until we looked at her daily habits. A single medium banana contains roughly 400 milligrams of potassium. For someone with declining kidney filtration, that's not a small number. Eat 2 and you've already used up a large portion of the daily potassium limit often recommended for chronic kidney disease. Here's the problem. Aging kidneys don't clear potassium quickly anymore. The excess doesn't leave right away. It builds. And when potassium builds, the heart feels it. First, subtle palpitations, muscle weakness. Restless sleep, a sense that something feels off at night. These aren't dramatic symptoms, which is exactly why they're so dangerous. But food rarely works alone. Bananas often appear alongside other potassium-rich foods, smoothies, avocado toast, coconut water, stacking the load without anyone realizing it. And this is where many people get trapped, believing one healthy choice cancels out another. But knowing this alone isn't enough, because there's another fruit that looks even healthier than bananas, and it can strain the kidneys even faster if you're not careful. After hearing about bananas, many people instinctively switch to what they believe is an even smarter choice: avocados. They're praised everywhere for their healthy fats, heart protection, and blood sugar balance. And on the surface, that reputation is deserved. I've had patients tell me with confidence, "I stopped bananas, doctor. Now I have avocado smoothies instead." What they didn't realize is that they may have made the potassium problem worse, not better. One gentleman in his early 70s came to me puzzled by persistent fatigue and nighttime heart fluttering. He was proud of his new routine: half an avocado blended every morning, sometimes more, because it went down so smoothly. What he didn't know is that just 1/3 of a medium avocado contains nearly 480 milligrams of potassium, more than an entire banana. And when avocados are blended, potassium is absorbed faster, giving aging kidneys very little time to adapt. Here's the science that often gets missed. As kidney filtration declines, especially below an eGFR of 60, the body loses its ability to buffer sudden mineral loads. Potassium enters the bloodstream quickly, but leaves slowly. That imbalance stresses the heart's electrical system, increasing the risk of irregular rhythms, muscle weakness, and that vague sense of heaviness people often dismiss as just getting older. Avocados aren't dangerous because they're unhealthy. They're dangerous because they're easy to overconsume without noticing. Smooth textures remove natural portion limits, and when paired with other potassium-rich foods, the load silently stacks. But understanding potassium quantity still isn't the full picture because there's another factor, one that doesn't show up on nutrition labels that can strain weakened kidneys even more. After learning about potassium overload, many people pivot toward fruits that look lighter and more refined. Kiwi is often at the top of that list. It's small, fresh, rich in vitamin C, and widely promoted for digestion and skin health. I've had patients say, "Doctor, I don't eat heavy fruits anymore. I just have a kiwi, it's clean, it's light." But kidneys don't judge food by appearance. They respond to chemistry. I remember a patient in her early 60s who ate 1 or 2 kiwis every morning to help with constipation and immunity. She did everything right, or so she thought. Yet over time, she began experiencing vague back discomfort and rising markers linked to stone risk. The missing piece wasn't potassium alone, it was oxalate. A single medium kiwi contains roughly 300 milligrams of potassium, but more importantly, about 35-40 milligrams of oxalate. Oxalate is a natural plant compound that healthy kidneys can usually flush out. But when kidney function slows with age, oxalate doesn't leave as easily. Instead, it combines with calcium in the urine, forming microscopic crystals that quietly grow into stones. Unlike potassium, oxalate doesn't cause immediate symptoms. There's no warning flutter, no fatigue spike. It builds silently. And because kiwi is eaten raw, there's no cooking step to reduce oxalate load. Everything goes straight into the bloodstream, straight to the kidneys. The real danger is misunderstanding. People assume small fruit means small risk. But in kidney health, concentration matters more than size, especially when hydration is low or kidney filtration is already compromised. But even oxalates aren't the full story yet, because there's another everyday fruit far more common, far more trusted, that can strain aging kidneys in an even more deceptive way. After hearing about potassium and oxalates, many people feel relieved when they reach for oranges. They're associated with immunity, vitamin C, and protection against colds, almost a symbol of doing something right for your health. I often hear, "Doctor, I don't snack much anymore. I just drink orange juice in the morning." And that sounds reasonable until we look at what happens inside aging kidneys. One patient in his late 60s drank a large glass of fresh orange juice every morning, believing it was safer than coffee. His labs showed creeping potassium levels and early signs of stone risk. The surprise wasn't the juice itself, it was the combination effect. A single large orange contains about 330 milligrams of potassium, and 1 cup of orange juice can reach 450 milligrams or more, delivered all at once. Liquids absorb faster than solid foods, giving weakened kidneys no time to pace the load. Here's the part most people don't realize. Vitamin C, when consumed in excess, can be partially converted into oxalate inside the body. For younger kidneys, that's manageable. But for older adults with reduced filtration, oxalate can accumulate quietly, increasing the risk of calcium, oxalate stone formation over time. Orange juice feels gentle, but metabolically it can be aggressive. Oranges also blur portion awareness. It takes several oranges to make 1 glass of juice, yet it never feels like overeating. And when juice is paired with other potassium-rich foods later in the day, the strain compounds invisibly. But potassium and oxalate still aren't the most deceptive threat yet, because there's another type of fruit, often dried, often seen as energy food, that concentrates minerals in a way few people expect. After learning about juice and hidden oxalates, many people switch to what they believe is a safer option: dried fruits, especially dates. They're small, sweet, easy to store, and often recommended for energy, digestion, and even mineral support. I've heard this many times, "Doctor, it's just a couple of dates. They're natural." And that's exactly where the risk hides. I once worked with a man in his early 70s who kept dates on his kitchen counter like candy. 2 here, 3 there, especially in the afternoon when energy dipped. He never felt sick, but his blood tests showed rising potassium that didn't match his meals. The issue wasn't how many foods he ate, it was how concentrated they were. One small date contains around 160–170 milligrams of potassium. Eat 4 or 5 without noticing, and you're suddenly pushing 700 milligrams in just a few bites. Here's the kidney science most people never hear. Drying fruit removes water, but locks minerals in place. That means potassium, phosphorus, and trace elements arrive in a dense package. Aging kidneys, which already filter more slowly, struggle to smooth out that surge. The result isn't immediate pain, it's silent electrical stress on the heart, subtle muscle fatigue, nighttime restlessness, and rising lab values that seem to appear out of nowhere. Dates also feel harmless because they're small. There's no plate, no portion and signal, no sense of I ate a lot. But kidneys don't measure food by size, they measure it by load. And dried fruit delivers one of the heaviest loads per bite. But mineral concentration is only part of the danger, because there's another fruit liquid this time that delivers potassium even faster and disrupts sleep in a way many older adults never connect to their kidneys. After learning how dried fruit concentrates minerals, many people pivot to what feels lighter and safer coconut water. It's often marketed as nature's perfect hydration, clean, refreshing, and far healthier than soda or sports drinks. I've had countless patients tell me, "Doctor, I don't drink juice anymore. I only drink coconut water." And for younger, active bodies, that choice can make sense. But aging kidneys play by very different rules. I remember a woman in her late 60s who started drinking coconut water every afternoon to help with leg cramps. Instead, her cramps worsened, her sleep became restless, and her heart felt jumpy at night. The culprit wasn't dehydration, it was overload. 1 cup of coconut water can contain 500 to 600 milligrams of potassium, sometimes more. Unlike solid food, liquids absorb almost immediately, sending a sudden surge straight into the bloodstream. Here's the physiology that rarely gets explained. As kidney function declines with age, the body loses its ability to rapidly excrete potassium spikes. When potassium enters too fast, the kidneys can't buffer it smoothly. The heart's electrical system senses the imbalance, first triggering palpitations, muscle weakness, and nighttime awakenings. That's why so many people notice more frequent urination or poor sleep after drinking coconut water in the evening. Another dangerous myth is treating coconut water like plain water. Water hydrates without minerals. Coconut water hydrates with a heavy electrolyte load. For weakened kidneys, that distinction matters more than people realize. But potassium speed isn't the only issue, because there's another fruit, sweet, colorful, and incredibly popular, that combines high potassium with sugar spikes, creating an even more complex threat for aging kidneys. After hearing about coconut water, many people turn to mango as a solid alternative. Fresh, colorful, full of vitamins, and deeply familiar. It feels comforting, almost nostalgic. I often hear, "Doctor, it's just mango. It's fruit." And that's exactly why it slips under the radar. A man in his early 70s once told me mango was his favorite afternoon treat. Sometimes sliced, sometimes blended, sometimes paired with yogurt, because it felt gentle on his stomach. His labs told a different story. A single medium mango can deliver over 550 milligrams of potassium, and when eaten alongside other potassium-rich foods earlier in the day, that load stacks fast. But potassium is only half the issue. Here's what complicates mango for aging kidneys. Mango is also naturally high in sugar. For older adults, especially those with insulin resistance or diabetes, rapid sugar spikes can inflame small blood vessels, including the delicate filtering units in the kidneys. Over time, that inflammation makes potassium handling even worse. It's a double-hit. Minerals stress the kidneys directly, while sugar weakens their ability to recover. What makes mango risky is how easy it is to overconsume. Smooth, sweet, and satisfying, it doesn't signal stop the way heavier foods do. And when eaten in the late afternoon or evening, its sugar-potassium combination can disrupt sleep, increase nighttime urination, and leave people feeling strangely tired the next day. Mango isn't harmful because it's unhealthy. It becomes harmful when it's eaten without timing, portion awareness, or consideration of kidney aging. And this matters more than most people realize, because the next fruit on our list looks even lighter, even more refreshing, but it challenges kidney balance in a way very few expect. After hearing about mango's sugar and potassium combination, many people shift toward fruits that feel lighter and more refreshing: cantaloupe, honeydew, and other melons. They're mostly water, mildly sweet, and often eaten chilled, which makes them feel gentle and harmless. I often hear, "Doctor, it's just melon. It's basically water." And that assumption is where the problem begins. I worked with a woman in her late 60s who loved melon in the summer. She'd cut up a large bowl and snack on it throughout the afternoon, especially on hot days. She thought she was hydrating well, but her blood test showed potassium creeping higher, and she was waking up multiple times a night to urinate. When we looked closer, the picture became clear. 1 cup of cantaloupe contains roughly 430 milligrams of potassium, and honeydew can reach 450 to 470 milligrams per cup. Eat 2 cups without noticing, and you're close to a full day's load for someone with reduced kidney function. Here's the key issue. Melons are eaten raw and absorbed quickly. There's no fiber barrier, no cooking step to slow mineral entry. Potassium moves rapidly into the bloodstream, creating a sudden electrolyte wave that aging kidneys struggle to smooth out. That rapid shift can trigger nighttime urination, muscle heaviness, and a subtle sense of internal restlessness that people rarely connect to fruit. Melons aren't dangerous because they're bad. They're risky because they move too fast through a system that now needs stability, not speed. And this becomes even more concerning when we look at the next fruit because it carries a risk that goes far beyond potassium alone. After talking about melons and potassium overload, many people assume the remaining risks are just about minerals. But this next fruit is different. Starfruit looks harmless, bright, crisp, slightly sour, often used in salads or juices. In many cultures, it's even considered cooling and cleansing. Yet for people with weakened kidneys, starfruit is not just stressful, it can be dangerous. I once reviewed a case involving an older man with early-stage kidney disease who drank a glass of starfruit juice on an empty stomach because he believed it helped flush toxins. Within hours, he felt confused, restless, and nauseated. By the next day, he was hospitalized. The issue wasn't potassium alone. Starfruit contains a natural neurotoxin called caramboxin. Healthy kidneys can usually filter it out. Aging or damaged kidneys cannot. Here's the science that makes this fruit uniquely risky. When kidney filtration slows, caramboxin accumulates in the bloodstream and can cross into the brain. Medical literature has documented symptoms ranging from hiccups and vomiting to seizures and altered consciousness in kidney patients after starfruit consumption. On top of that, starfruit is also very high in oxalates, increasing the risk of calcium oxalate crystal formation in the kidneys. The most dangerous part is silence. There's often no early warning. People don't feel pain at first. They just feel off. And by the time symptoms appear, the toxin has already built up. This is why starfruit is one of the few fruits that kidney specialists consistently warn against, not as moderation advice, but as a serious caution. And yet it's still widely misunderstood. But even this isn't the final surprise, because the next fruit is one almost everyone trusts for hydration, and it creates problems in a completely different way. After hearing about starfruit, many people instinctively turn to watermelon, believing it to be the safest possible choice. It's light, refreshing, mostly water, and often recommended during hot weather to stay hydrated. I hear this all the time, "Doctor. I don't eat heavy fruit anymore. I just have watermelon." And for younger kidneys, that logic works. For aging kidneys, it often backfires. I recall a man in his early 70s who ate watermelon every evening because it felt cooling and helped him relax. Over time, he began waking up 3 or 4 times a night to urinate and felt oddly fatigued in the mornings. His tests didn't show infection or heart failure. The missing link was timing and load. Just 1 cup of watermelon contains around 170 milligrams of potassium, which seems modest until you realize how easy it is to eat 3 or 4 cups without noticing. Here's what matters physiologically. Watermelon is over 90% water, which means it enters the bloodstream quickly. That sudden fluid shift forces the kidneys to work when they should be slowing down for the night. At the same time, potassium arrives steadily with each serving. The combination disrupts the kidney's natural circadian rhythm, triggering nighttime urination, mild swelling, and fragmented sleep. The danger isn't watermelon itself. It's the belief that hydration is always harmless, regardless of timing. Aging kidneys don't struggle with water alone. They struggle with water plus minerals at the wrong hour. Watermelon can be enjoyed safely, but only in small portions and earlier in the day. When eaten late or in excess, it quietly turns rest into work for already tired kidneys. But even hydration timing isn't the last hidden trap, because there's another fruit often praised for cleansing and heart health that can interfere with medications in a way few people expect. After talking about hydration timing, many people feel confident choosing grapefruit. It's light, slightly bitter, refreshing, and often praised for heart health and weight control. I've heard patients say, "Doctor, I eat grapefruit because it's not sweet. It must be safer." And nutritionally, grapefruit does offer benefits. The danger isn't what it gives, it's what it changes. A patient in his late 60s once told me he started every morning with half a grapefruit and his blood pressure pills. He followed instructions carefully, never missed a dose. Yet weeks later, he felt unusually weak, dizzy, and short of breath. The issue wasn't the medication itself, it was the interaction. Grapefruit contains compounds called furanocoumarins, which can block an enzyme known as CYP3A4, a key system your body uses to break down many medications. When this enzyme is inhibited, drugs don't clear normally. Blood pressure medications, statins, heart rhythm drugs, even some anti-anxiety and sleep medications can stay in the bloodstream longer and at higher levels than intended. For aging kidneys, this creates a dangerous double burden: reduced drug clearance and reduced mineral regulation. On top of that, half a medium grapefruit still contains about 300 milligrams of potassium, quietly adding to the daily load. What makes grapefruit especially deceptive is timing. Many people eat it in the morning, right when medications are taken, unknowingly amplifying drug effects hour by hour. The body doesn't feel alarm right away, but stress builds beneath the surface. Grapefruit isn't forbidden for everyone. But for older adults on chronic medications, it must be approached with precision, spacing, and awareness, not habit. And now we come to the final fruit, one that feels harmless, affordable, and familiar, yet challenges the kidneys in a completely different way that most people never connect to digestion and sleep. After hearing about grapefruit and medication interactions, many people feel relieved turning to something simple and familiar: guava. It's affordable, widely available, rich in vitamin C, and often recommended for digestion. I hear this often: Dr. Guava is basic. It's safe, and compared to many fruits it can be, but only when the kidneys and digestive system are still resilient. I once worked with an older woman who ate guava almost daily to help with constipation. She believed fiber was always beneficial, and in many cases it is, but she began experiencing bloating in the evenings, restless sleep, and more frequent nighttime urination. Her kidney numbers were stable but borderline. The issue wasn't excess calories, it was load and timing. 100 grams of ripe guava can contain 250 to 300 milligrams of potassium, moderate but meaningful when added to other foods throughout the day. More importantly, guava is extremely high in fiber. For aging digestion, too much fiber too late in the day can slow stomach emptying, increase abdominal pressure, and trigger reflex signals that disturb bladder and kidney rhythm during sleep. Here's what often gets overlooked. When digestion struggles, the kidneys work harder to maintain internal balance. Gut stress becomes kidney stress. And when that pattern repeats daily, subtle symptoms, poor sleep, fatigue, mild swelling begin to appear without a clear cause. Guava isn't harmful because it's unhealthy. It becomes problematic when eaten in large portions, eaten too late, or used as a safe default without listening to the body's response. And this brings us to the most important truth of all, because none of these fruits act alone. What truly determines whether kidneys stay stable or move toward dialysis isn't one food, but the pattern you repeat every single day. Before we end, I want you to remember one important thing. Having aging kidneys or early kidney weakness does not mean you failed your health. It means your body is asking for a different kind of care. Now one that's gentler, more intentional, and more informed. You don't need fear. You don't need extreme diets. What you need is awareness, timing, and small daily choices that work with your kidneys instead of against them. If this video helped you see food, fruit, and everyday habits more clearly, please take a moment to save this video. Not just for today, but for the day you might forget, or the day someone you care about needs this reminder. And if you haven't yet, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Here we share practical, evidence-based medical insights, Explain simply so you can protect your kidneys, your heart, and your quality of life as you age. Most importantly, don't lose hope. Kidney decline is not a sudden event, it's a process. And that means it's also a process you can slow down sometimes dramatically with the right knowledge and consistency. Each thoughtful choice you make today gives your kidneys more room to rest tomorrow. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Take care of yourself, take care of your kidneys, and I'll see you in the next video.